We're talking running back preview of my rankings, and that's going to happen right now. What's going on, everybody? It's Bob's Three-Toed Warriors with Word on the Streets. This is live stream number 4. We're about 26 or 7 episodes into the season, plus live streams, and it's crack time. No, we're not on crack. Well, no, I'm not on crack. You might think so by the time we're done with these rankings, though, right? Today I have on the show with me the boys _22 Kevin Coleman. What's going on, Kevin? How you doing tonight?
I'm good, Bob. How are we doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Doing good. We went on a boat today with the family. So those not watching on the YouTubes, I got the old Bob's Three-Toed Warriors nasty stank river straw hat on, and I got the draft armband on from my first draft, and it was bad. I'm just gonna read you this team. Don't draft this team. Don't draft Big Ben, Dez, Manuel Sanders, Jonathan Stewart, Drug Martin, Winston. Look at that. I've already got 2 quarterbacks, and I'm 6 picks in. I don't know. All right. Don't do those kind of things. All right. But I'm wearing the silly stuff because it's draft season, and it's just time to talk about these running backs because we got redraft drafts going on like crazy. They're firing up anytime between now and the next 2, 3, 4 weeks. So before we get into that, Kevin, why don't you tell everybody, all our listeners, where they can find your work, sir?
Yeah, they can find me at DuBois, DuBois _22 on Twitter, at hammercast.com. We do a lot of Debbie stuff. And I also wanted to give a shout out. We're doing a teacher charity league right now for No Kid Hungry. We've raised over $1,300 in a couple days. And so we're trying to get it maybe up to that $1,500 mark. Our goal is $1,000, but now we're trying to get up to $1,500. And we're going to leave the link live. So if people want to do it, we actually had people buy our first round picks. So like I got CEH, but like other people got like I think Corey Davis and some other guys, like they were bidding up on me with Colin Kaepernick. So we actually were able to raise money that way. So it was a lot of fun, cool. But all for the kids and trying to raise some money for charity. So if you guys want to donate, you definitely can. Just find me on Twitter and I can send you the link.
Awesome. I love it. I love that. It's cool. Man's a busy man. It's his 3rd time now tied for number 1 on the show.
That's right.
BC's not going to be happy with you. But there's an announcement in the works. We're not going to drop it on this show, but that number will soon be fading, by the way. But that won't really be a guess number. That was a pretty good hint, wasn't it? So, all right. I can be found at Bob's Three-Toed on Twitter, on YouTube at Bob's Three-Toed Warriors, the Facebook pages, the Word on Streets Fantasy Football. And shows are dropping Mondays and Thursdays, soon to change with the regular season. And the live stream is currently on Wednesdays, soon also to change with the regular season, just to be more conducive with getting everybody's information out to them so they can get their sit starts and their waiver wire picks in from the show. So that was just some good information for you. Hope you guys wrote it all down. Everybody's got a pen, right? But let's not spend any more time on that. You guys watching the show, you can put your comments in. We're gonna read them on live on the show. You can ask your questions, hopefully relative to the show. We'll answer those on the show as well. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as we enjoy doing it. And don't forget to hit the notification bell if you're listening on the pod release replay on Saturday. Feel free to subscribe, give that 5-star rating. It's greatly appreciated. And Mr. Wilson wasted no time jumping in here. He says that I heard NFL could be Saturdays only if no college. That would be interesting. I've heard Fridays dropped in there. I've heard lots of days. I'll just have to change which days we give our rankings and stuff like that. But I'll watch. Sure. So, all right. Let's get into these rankings. And the mess that my screen looks like trying to keep everything in order. Thought share that with you guys and the rankings here. So let's get back to the regular screen. So at number 1, this is redraft rankings. I was going to say 1 quarterback. That does nothing to do with these running backs at all. But it's half PPR. If you are playing in a PPR league, then bump up the number some. if you are playing in a standard league, then take the number down some for certain players. Some players it's not going to be as big an impact on. Other players it will. So at number 1, we have Christian McCaffrey. He is this is tier 1, Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley. I slated McCaffrey in for 344 points. It's probably a down tick from last year. I have that somewhere, but not in front of me. And Saquon Barkley at 307, 1 and 2. Why don't you tell me what you think about those guys right there in that first tier?
Yeah, I mean, those are the 2 top guys going into the season. We know that. I think Barkley's going to be a little closer than some people think to McCaffrey. Barkley got hurt a little bit last year, so we didn't see the full Barkley. Even when he came back, he rushed it. So he wasn't healthy after that. So I think Barkley, you're in a draft. I understand going CMC 1, overall. But you get Barkley, you could get the number 1 running back next year. And especially in that Giants offense, it's going to expand a little bit. Daniel Jones is going to be a little bit better. I don't think they're going to be able to stack the box as much, especially with the weapons on the outside. Especially if Shepard can stay healthy for Jones. So I could see Barkley getting close, but Christian McCaffrey, until we see a downfall, I think he's got to be the guy. So that's the guy you want to draft, and especially in PPR, that's the dude you want.
All right. So jump on Christian McCaffrey. I think that's everybody's consensus one. I don't think we're shocking the world with that one. And Saquon Barkley, that's a little debatable for some people. Some people would probably slide Zeke above him. I've even seen Derrick Henry taken in drafts above him. To me, that one's a little hot takey, a little crazy for me.
Yeah.
But that's just me, and I'm not that big a fan of him. Mr. Andy pops in. He says, "Who's Bob?" That's me. You silly man. That's one of our buddies out there. Thank you. All right, so let's go to number 3, and this one is not who the world thinks should be number 3, Dalvin Cook. So I have a Dalvin Cook, the first person in tier 2, which is Dalvin Cook, Zeke, and Alvin Kamara. I got him at 275, and the other guys aren't trailing far behind him. So, do I have some splaining to do?
Yeah, you do actually. I want to hear why you put Cook as 3.
Okay, so let me go to how I statted this guy out. Dalvin Cook. Is this thing alphabetical? Wish I had an easier way to look at this. Let's go this way. All right, Dalvin Cook. Here he is. Big carry split for his team. He's gonna carry the load for his team. He'll take the bench every once in a while for Alexander Madison, but he's gonna get the bulk of the work more than likely. Targets game, I have him down for 4.8 targets game, so it's a good little PPR number there. Very realistic to what he did the last 2 years as a on pace average. Obviously, he doesn't always play a full season, but for his on pace average, feel pretty good about it. Rushing attempts 270, which some people might say is high. I don't think it's high. You think 270 is high?
No, not in that offense. I think that's kind of what we expect from him next year, as long as he plays.
Yeah, there's Minnesota. Let me get a better screen. The one I statted on easier. So 1,242 yards, not unrealistic for him.
No.
77 targets, 57 receptions, 500 yards. 11 touchdowns on the ground, 1 in the air. So, and if you look at him last couple years, 13 rushing touchdowns last year. So I took him down to 1,100 yards last year. I only gave him an extra 100. Not too bad. And reception, he didn't have any receiving touchdowns, and I gave him 2. I think 2. So I about washed with his production last year. So it might not be an issue of him being higher. It might be an issue of me being lower on the other guys.
Yeah. I mean, now that you kind of talked about it, and I was looking at his targets, especially with Diggs leaving, I think they're going to rely on him to run a lot more. I think they're going to give him more volume. I just get worried about either his health. Sometimes you just say, can he finish the season? And that's valid. And then also, like, I'm not a big believer in Kirk Cousins, so they're going to be stacking that box. Unless Justin Jefferson, who I'm really high on, but if he can step up and maybe take some targets away from Cooks, you're right about the receiving. He could actually see an uptick in that receiving And I don't, as a Cowboy fan, I love Zeke. So Zeke's my guy, but with all the weapons on the Cowboys, I could see Cook getting more volume.
Yeah. There's a couple of quick questions. Cook missed half of the games, injury prone. That is true, Mr. Wilson, but we can't play the injury game when we're statting them out. We just got to hope they play all 16 games. But when you're drafting them, that's where the injury bug can defer me, and I can push to the side and say it's a tiebreaker. I'm going to go with the guy that tends to be less injury prone for myself. Josh_FF says, I got him at 260, 270. Totally fair, my man. Thank you. He says Diggs' departure leading to the spike in targets. I'm guessing it is for both me and you, and that's what you just alluded to right there. And we'll come to that one later, Mr. Wilson. All right. So let's go to the next guy on the list here, and that is the guy who most people would say is second or third, and that's Zeke Elliott, followed by Alvin Kamara. So I think it's really just me pushing Dalvin Cook up with the workload and the targets there that made the difference and made my stats look weird. Don't worry, they'll get more interesting as the plays go on. So Zeke Elliott in the second tier and at 273. How do you like him there, above Kamara or after?
I'm going to always put him a little bit above just because I think the Cowboys really do rely on him. And I think, and as a Cowboy fan, I watch it for the last 4 or 5 years. He's going to get you, as long as he plays and he's there, he's going to get you anywhere from 1,200 to 1,400 yards rushing. And for him too, he averages about, give or take 12 touchdowns a year, especially on the ground. And he's pretty underrated receiver. I think though that, as I've been thinking about it, especially the Cowboys, I think Tony Pollard is going to be more involved in the receiving game for them. So I think maybe it kind of limits Zeke a little bit. So that I'm okay with him being that 4 or 5 range, just because I think, especially in that Dallas offense with Jarwin, CeeDee Lamb, Gallup, Cooper, they're going to be hucking that thing around to all kinds of different people. So I think it will affect Zeke, but I'm still taking him, I think, as my running back 3. I actually just drafted him above Dalvin Cook, so I had him there.
Okay, and I would say, in a draft, I would probably take him above as well myself, even though I ranked him there. I'm like, because that injury bug would probably be the tie break, even though I thought it was close.
Zeke usually stays healthy. I mean, Zeke's a pretty healthy guy. I know in 2017 he didn't finish, but after that he's averaged 15 games a year. So you can really rely on him, and and he's the guy that I would want on my fantasy team, especially in redraft. I'm taking him.
Yeah. I slated him for 1,354 yards, 11 touchdowns. 43 receptions, 329 yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns. So I did only put Pollard in for 13 receptions and 1 touchdown. So nice little point you bring up. If Pollard kind of spells him a little and gets those receptions and pulls it away, they could drop him a little. But the guy is just a beast, and that offense should just be great this year. It should be. Yeah, we should be. I just think everybody all the stuff I've been going over and listening to the Cowboys Twitter and kind of reading all their stuff, they think that like Pollard's going to be in that Ty Montgomery kind of role in McCarthy's offense. So if he is, then yeah, that'll definitely. But we don't know McCarthy. We don't know if it's going to be Kellen Moore's show or McCarthy's show or how that's going to work. Right. So we really got to wait and see. But I think Pollard could see a little bit more than that because they like him and they actually really do. They liked him out of the draft, and I know they use him as a weapon, but there's just so many weapons on that count. We should be the number. I know the Chiefs fans are gonna get pissed, but we have more weapons than the Chiefs do. I really believe that. They're gonna phone in now.
But we do have more weapons. I mean, I think overall we have a better surrounding cast. Dak. I know Mahomes is way better, but Dak's still a top 3 fantasy quarterback. So, and I just wrote a dynasty quarterback thing. Who would you want? I put Dak on there as my 4th quarterback. So I think that the Cowboys with all those targets and stuff, they're a great offense. So Zeke's the guy that you want.
Okay, there we go. You heard him, guys. Go take him.
But I'm a homer. So
Alvin Kamara next. So Alvin Kamara at number 4. I got him slated for 931 rushing yards, which is not a ton, but that's because of a big split with Latavius Murray almost getting 600 yards, 9 touchdowns still, receiving yards 600, just under 600. And 5 receiving touchdowns because probably more than he should have on 68 receptions, but the man is just electric when he gets the ball. And so that put him at 270 points, RB5 for me. as long as Latavius doesn't cut into too much of that work. You could say that the addition of Emmanuel Sanders could be a little tricky for him.
Yeah.
Do they actually have a number 2? Will that take some of the passing game? You could say that maybe Taysom Hill will actually get out there and do a lot more tight end, wide receiver, running back receiving than he did as a quarterback. They only had like 20 or so. Not a crazy amount. So, but what's your thoughts there on Alvin Kamara?
Yeah, when I was looking at this, I was going over I was trying to study. I know Detroit PD will be mad at me, but I was looking over some stats and doing some stuff. And I didn't really realize that Kamara has never had over 1,000 yards rushing in his career. And so when I was looking at that, I was like, wow, that's crazy. I mean, I know he has receiving, but even then, I mean, all-purpose yards around 1,500, which is really good in PPR. Half PPR, though, you're kind of looking at that kind of in the middle. You're going to take him down a little bit.
Yeah.
I know it just came out that he probably had a torn MCL last year. So they talked about, they don't know for sure. They haven't confirmed it, but his knee was hurt. So we could, now that he's healthy, maybe he does jump back up there. But Latavius Murray is a serious guy running back behind him. And that's like, if you're looking for like one of those guys you're going to try to get later in the rounds, Murray's going to get a majority, some of the work, especially the goal line. So I think he will take away some touchdowns from Kamara. So I agree. I think he should be right there in the middle of the Zeke in that tier 2, lower tier 2.
Yeah. So the numbers I'm using here are, I'm basing them off the last 3 years of performances, and adjusting them to what I think they'll be, better, worse, situations, stuff like that. So it was very weird, as you said, him not getting 1,000 yards, but him being the stud player. Yeah. So much PPR, 728, 883, and 797 now. That's 16, 15, 14 games. Hopefully this year is not 13 games. Hopefully that's not a sign as they're going down. Same thing as yards per reception, 10.2, 8.8, and 6.6. So I think I slated that for a little bit of a rebound and getting back into the passing game. I also feel like he was playing kind of injured like Saquon Barkley and not his full self out there. So famous Jameis should be great fit on the Saints. Well, hopefully it's not needed this year. We shall see. So, all right. After Kamara, we have number 5. Get this thing off my screen. Number 5. All right. So here's tier number 3, which is a big tier for me. This tier is Miles Sanders, Joe Mixon, Kenyon Drake, Clyde, Edwards-Helaire, Derrick Henry, which I have buried at 10, and Josh Jacobs. So that's a tier for me, which ranges from 256 points on the season down to 244 points, which is really less than a point a game when you do this stuff. It's like, that's all that's separating these guys. Sure. Which one do I want? But all right, let's focus on number 6, Miles Sanders. So for Mr. Miles Sanders, he has so many question marks around him. He had to barely get his spot last year from David Montgomery, question mark. He has, the only reason he caught so many passes is because all the guys were injured. They'll be injured this year. He had just so many different question marks. So I got him for 254 rushing attempts, which is 1,167 yards, 9 touchdowns. And I wish I had a better mouse to slide to the side for me here. That is only about 100 yards more than last year with him not being the man. There's a few more rushing touchdowns, but again, he should be the man. And 509 yards and 3 touchdowns last year, and I said he's going to have 426 and 3. So I took him down, almost 100 yards, and he's still popping that high in the rankings. So, what's your thoughts? What's your feelings on him?
Yeah, Sanders, he's one of I liked him coming out of college a lot. I scouted him a lot, especially with all my Devy stuff. And I think he can be that guy. Like Jordan Howard leaving is going to help him because he really is the guy. They got Boston Scott, but that's not someone to really be worried about. I noticed that he's going to probably have over 1,000 yards rushing. I could see that easily next season just because there's no one else. I mean, he's got to have to get the ball. And like you said, I really do think his receiving is going to go down just because I think his rushing is going to increase. But he should have a positive increase on his touchdowns. So he's going to score. Sure. What did you say you thought you had him at for touchdowns?
9 touchdowns on the ground, 3 in the air.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that I could see him getting from the 8 to 10 touchdown range, especially in that offense. I think Wentz will be better this year. As long as those weapons around him stay healthy and then they actually have a passing game, I think that it's going to help Sanders out a lot. And I think they're just going to try to get him the ball. I mean, everything that comes out of camp, we keep hearing, oh, Sanders is the guy. We're going to give him the high workload and all that stuff. And that's all coach speak. But if you truly believe that, hey, he's your guy, you take him. You could probably get him right now in that mid-tier 8th, 9th pick in a single quarterback. In a super flex, I got him at the I think 2.01, so like right at first pick of the second round. So like if you're trying to get him right there, I think in a half PPR especially, you're gonna get a pretty solid production from him.
So did you grab a wide receiver on that turn, or did you go running back? I know you're a fan of the wide receiver, not as much on the running back. But
in that league, I actually grabbed I grabbed Sanders and then I grabbed Michael Thomas. So I got both of those two guys.
Damn, sweet. So you got Thomas on the 12. That's great.
Yeah, Thomas on the 12 and Sanders on the turn. So
okay, I would love to start with that.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with that.
All right, so after that, we got Joe Mixon, and I think Joe Mixon usually goes 7th. I have him the 7th. Okay, it's Henry. It's Derrick Henry. I got buried, and Nick Chubb for that matter. So, where the hell did Nick Chubb go?
He's running back 18. You got him at 18 down there.
Yeah, there's something wrong there. We'll have to talk about that one if we get to that one. All right, let's go to damn. That's the fun part about these. It's like you got to look at them, you got to see it. So
I saw that and I was like, all right, well, let's just roll with it then. Because I was looking at it, I was like, where the hell did Nick Chubb go?
Well, we're gonna see if I can justify my number. All right, Joe Mixon coming in at 253 points on the season. The way that looks for him is what teams he played for? Cincinnati. Come on, one more time. Boop boop. Dead air is always fun. All right, Joe Mixon, 251 rushing attempts. He's going to be the man there. We all know that. We don't question it. 1,154 yards, very reasonable. Very similar stat line to the last guy. 9 touchdowns on the ground. Here's a 445 receptions, 373 receiving yards. 4 projected touchdowns through the air. So, and that puts him at number 7. And he's on a very interesting team that might be crazy good with the rookie quarterback, or it might just be another team sucking with the rookie quarterback. So where are you sitting with that?
Mixon's my guy. I like Mixon a lot.
Okay.
I've had Mixon a lot in a couple leagues. I just think with what he's been able to produce on the worst offensive line I've seen in like 2 years, and with Andy frickin' Dalton as your quarterback, I love his production. He's had 2,000 yard rushing seasons, 8 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns the last 2 years in those 2 seasons. And I think he's going to get more involved in the passing game now he has got Joe Burrow. I think people underestimate how big of an improvement Burrow is from Dalton. Towards the last 3 years of Mixon, if you watched the Bengals, you knew he was just not that guy. So I like Mixon a lot. I think that he could actually sneak his way up a little bit higher in the rankings in PPR. Just because I'd rather take – I know everybody's complaining about Mixon or Sanders. That's a big thing going on right now. And I'd rather have Mixon. I think Mixon's a better running back. And I think that he actually is going to actually produce higher this year with a better team, better offensive line, and better quarterback.
Yeah, I can dig that completely. They have a complete opposite scenario on the receiving side than the Eagles do. Well, let me rephrase that. They kind of do. They have a lot of rookie, a lot of talent that's growing. They have a guy that's coming back from injury, so I guess that's almost the same as the Eagles do, who should be healthy and good to go. And Tyler Boyd's always a beast. And they have a lot of weapons, and that's why I have them scheduled for pretty similar receiving yards as last year. But even then, he still rocks out, and he's still phenomenal. P2W Fantasy, our boy, says Kevin throwing down the heat. Henry Barbosa, the Samoan, says, "What are you drinking, Bob?" Got the big ice cube, and I got the Jim Beam Red Stag rolling, because got to have a little wild cherry whiskey in your life. Cheers from the Samoan. That's same Gizai. And Gio Bernard still the backup. He seems to have fallen off. I'd say I don't know if he's fallen off. He just I don't know if he really ever had the
I don't-
workload love. So
I think, I mean, if you're looking for a backup, get Travion Williams. I think Travion Williams, I loved him coming out of college. If he would have stayed healthy, I think he would have went to a different team and situation. Yeah, Giovanni Bernard is
he's toast.
I don't think he's toast, but I think it's a young man's game. I think Williams is going to step into that role really simple. But I think a lot of people give Zach Taylor a lot of crap, and they shouldn't. I know he had a bad year last year, but that team, ever since AJ Green went down, like you talked about, I mean, there wasn't a lot going on for that team with that offensive line. And I actually like Zach Taylor's system, so I think it's going to help Mixon, especially when he gets his new contract, and then he'll be happy. And I think he's going to have a great year.
There you go. Let's slide down to number 8, Kenyon Drake. That consensus not ADP consensus rankings out there have him at number 9, so not terribly high on him. Again, is because I buried a couple other guys. We'll get to those issues later. So Kenyon Drake at 247. He plays for Arizona, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I got to flip through 32 tabs to find the right one. So here we go. All right. So Kenyon Drake, I scheduled him for 240 with 1,150 rushing yards, 10 rushing touchdowns. A little loftier than the other two guys. 40 receptions, 324 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns. So he's kind of in that same ilk, that same area when you figure everything in. And is that outlandish for him? I don't know. 800 yards in his games last year, and that was not having the full workload, sitting almost bench a lot of the time. So I think the 1,100 is pretty realistic there. Received 345. I have him somewhere right around there. He didn't get any receiving touchdowns last season. I think that's got to come up to 1 or 2 at a bare minimum. And I said 3, so maybe a little high. But they like him there, and that team's supposed to be high flying. But you know what? They could still be a dud team. What do you got?
Yeah, for me with Kenyon Drake, that's one of the guys that I kind of battle with a lot because I just feel like he hasn't produced the numbers that you'd want to see from drafting somebody with that ADP. If you're drafting him in the late first round, like that to me is, I just don't want to touch that, especially in redraft, because I think he has a high ceiling, but I also think he has the lowest floor of those guys because it really relies on the Arizona offense. Can Murray not have a sophomore year slump and actually kind of get that thing going? They added Hopkins. Kirk, I think, is going to do well. They still got Fitzgerald. They got all these guys around him, and how much are they going to involve in Drake? I know that he's going to get involved in the passing game. I just worry about his usage, and like everybody always says, Adam Gase sucks. Yeah, I know Adam Gase sucked. Like I get it.
Never heard that before in our lives.
I understand he was trash. I understand he's terrible, but like for me, it's always talent always rises to the top for me when I watch games, and Drake never rose to the top. And so if you're not going to rise to the top when you're actually, no matter where you're at, that Miami team wasn't very good. And yes, maybe Gase was there, but they traded him for a reason. And so a lot of people think that he's going to be a top 10 running back. And I have a hard time seeing him in that echelon of running back. I just don't know if he's going to be able to produce for you. Like if you're really relying on him at that high of an ADP, I'd be very worried about my team.
Yeah. That's a tough part when you're statting these guys out and trying to take the emotion out of it.
Yeah.
Because you really are. Like I could see this being a realistic result for him. But if you draft him where he's going this high, or as high as I have him, I should say, you are drafting him at a ceiling, and you're not really getting a good value in a sense. But I don't think you're going to have to draft him. I took down my ADP. I don't think you have to get him that high. So I think you'd be fine taking him later in the second round after you took someone much better in the first round.
If you're going to go double running backs in the first 2 rounds and you take him as your second running back, I'm good with it. I mean, that's okay. But I see some people grabbing him as their first running back, and I just don't. Yeah. I'd be really worried about that. There's a lot of people out there that are really high on the Drake train, but I'm not one of those people. I need to see usage, and I need to see them get involved in that offense. And I think Murray takes some points away from him too. I think they're going to rush with him a little bit more. I just don't know. I just want to see it first before I actually start getting him up in that higher range.
Yeah, he is one that hasn't proven it as a lot of these other guys in this area have.
Yeah,
it's interesting. So he is. Wait, who is this? Kenyon Drake. He is ADP of overall 15, so just after the turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely have him higher based on what I can see him doing. Let's go to someone that everybody's now on the hype train for, and that's a little Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think I said it right. Otherwise, it's going to be hilarious. Dad jokes. All right. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Let's go to the Chiefs, KC, Green Bay, Kansas City. This got easier for him, I think, at least for me to rank him with Williams leaving, opting out. I still think it was a strategic move by him. I think I said that on the previous show with you on there. When he opted out, I think he just didn't want to get beat by the running back. So I have him for 234 rushing attempts, lower than the other guys I've talked about so far, pretty much. Only 1,006 rushing yards, other than Alvin Kamara. He's the lowest so far to that number. Because I could see him sharing the ball with DeAndre Washington some, being that he's an old coach's favorite. And I am a fan of Darrell Williams myself, or Darrell, however people feel like saying that, or however he says it, I guess. Lost my earpiece, don't need it. Rushing TDs, I only have him down at I said only. That's the expected number. I have him up at 10, which is actually pretty high. But for this offense, it's not high. They're such a high scoring offense. They're going to put him in a position to get the ball in the end zone more often. Thanks for enjoying that pun, Andy. The rushing TDs, only 2, which I think – that's Mahomes. Sorry, 5. Again, on the higher side. But I think he's going to be in a position to do it. And the man has some receiving chops. So – he can catch the ball. He can do some things in the air and on the ground. And receptions, 45 for 335, in a similar yardage as some of the previous guys. I just think the opportunity is there. It was going to be there, but he was going to have to earn it a lot harder. I feel like he just had the door open for him. Now, granted, maybe it turns out he's not ready and they slide these other guys in still earlier in the season. I hope not. Hope they just unleash the beast. So what's your thoughts there?
Yeah. I mean, in strictly redraft, I see it. Like, that's, he's going to have opportunity. He's going to be, he had over 1,800 yards from scrimmage last year at LSU. He's going to be in a better offense with a better quarterback. They're going to space the field out. It's up to him. Like, there's really no one that's going to stop him but him. If he can't learn the system, as long as he stays healthy, he should get the opportunity. And this is a make or break year for him. It's weird to say that, but there's really nothing holding him back. There's no one behind him. None of those guys they have are going to do anything. Darwin Thompson's not coming out of a grave and going to show up again. Like, that's not happening. So really, it's up to Helaire to actually produce. And if he can, I guess there's no one else. So 1,000 yards, you're going to have a lot of receiving yards. You're going to have, Mahomes as your quarterback. So if he's your running back 2 going into redraft, that's an excellent spot for him. And he could produce pretty high numbers. Maybe he could sneak into that top tier. And that's kind of what you want from the guy. The rookies things. I know some older fantasy guys that hate drafting rookies that high. I just kind of sometimes wonder, like, when Zeke and those guys go into those, like when Zeke came out, that's a guy, we can draft him as the first pick. We're good. We're using his location as kind of like, of course, where he's going to produce. Like, he went to the Chiefs. Look at that spot. But maybe the talent doesn't equal the spot. Maybe it does, but maybe it doesn't. And if talent doesn't equal that spot, I don't know how much the talent or that spot can actually push him over the top. That would be my only concern. But it's up to him to show that he can do it. It's really no one else is going to be there to stop him.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Somebody asked who's faster, Mecole Hardman or Tyreek. That's next week's show, sir. We're talking wide receivers. And I honestly don't know who's faster. I think it's still Tyreek. I tried Googling it while you were talking there, and multitasking can be difficult.
I'm going Tyreek. I'm going to say Tyreek until he retires. Tyreek's
the guy called the freak. So
yeah.
All right. All right. So we're going to flip here to the next guy. Let's just move past him. Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. Since you do love the Devy, you do love the Dynasty. I know people are going back and forth between him and Taylor. Did this change your mind any way at all? Move him up the scale ahead of Taylor for you? Or was he already ahead of Taylor?
Well, for me, I'm Dobbins. I'm a Dobbins guy. So
Okay.
for Dynasty, I think he's more talented, but I would rank it Dobbins, Taylor, and then I would go probably Clyde in that category. And then Akers and Swift are like right next to each other until one of those guys breaks out.
All right, cool. All right, we're going to stay in that third tier. We're going to go to running back number 10. That's Derrick Henry for me. For the rest of the world, where in the heck is Derrick Henry? He is number 6. So I'm going to explain myself a little. I have a 245 points right there in that same little group with all those other guys. And he plays for Tennessee. So let's start with last year. Let's start there. We have so let's go to the last 2 years, 2018, 2019, 16 games, 15 games. He had just over 1,000 yards in 2 years ago. He had 1,540 yards. Amazing last year. Averaged just about 5 yards per carry on both sides. 12 rushing touchdowns 2 years ago, 16 last year. That's phenomenal. Here's his targets, 18 and 24. They don't really throw him the ball that much. He caught it 15 and 18 times. Meh. 99 yards and 206. That 206 was pushed up, I think, by that 105-yard reception in the flat. You take that out, and he's down to 99 yards. Hey, everybody gets those long ones, and we don't take them out of anybody else's stats, so let's not put A's or stats in there to steal it from some other show. And he had 2 receiving touchdowns. So that was him in the last 2 years. And then I put him in for Derrick Henry, 293 attempts. That was compared to 215 and 303. So I didn't shave much off. 10. Shaved off 10 attempts. 1,404 yards. That's still phenomenal to me. It's only a little bit over 100 less than he had last year. 12 touchdowns. Still phenomenal. I kept him still with a very meager 148 yards receiving in between what he had the last 2 years and 2 receiving touchdowns, which is what he had last year. I don't think that's an unfair number. I think he doesn't have to regress. Tyreek Hill didn't really regress. People don't always regress, but it's, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think he's going to regress a little bit. I think the touchdowns, he's going to definitely regress in a little bit. But, in that offense, that's kind of what they want to do, and they're going to just run the ball, and they're going to run it down your throat and redraft, especially there. I think sometimes, like with the half PPR, I think in standard, he's your guy. You're going to run the ball, score touchdowns, do those things. I don't know. Like, my boy Hammerjacks loves him, and he says he's a better receiver than he gets credit for. But I would be more worried about Darrington Evans from Appalachian State, the rookie, because I think they're going to make him somewhat of the third down back sometimes, especially out of the backfield, because he's electric when he catches the ball. So I think he's going to regress a little bit there. I don't think he's going to get those opportunities that we see. And I was reading an article. I wish I could remember who wrote it, but they were talking about they could actually see Tennessee when they get down 14-0. They're not going to run the ball with Henry anymore. So a lot of those times, they really is going to depend on how they're playing in their games. Because if they can't get that lead quick, then a lot of times Henry's just not going to be on the field. So I think that's the one area of concern.
Game script.
Yeah.
That could be deadly.
And so, they were talking about maybe their defense takes they've taken a little bit of beating. They've had some injuries. They had some guys leave. So the defense could get worse, which would lead Henry to not being the workhorse back that we're used to seeing. But I think it's fair to think that he's going to decline a little bit. But I'd still maybe have him over like Drake or those type of guys, just because I think that he's going to score some touchdowns and he's going to be the goal line guy. That's kind of where I was at.
Okay. I can see it. And if they start rolling that game script on him like they did Marlon Mack over in Indy last year, you could just watch and you could see, good game script. Mac had a great game. Bad game script. Can you sit over there for a while we pass the ball? So that could be, if that happens, that could be deadly. Or hey, maybe your boy is right over there with Hammerjacks 1. We love that guy, and maybe he's right, and they actually use him as this pass catching back that he feels he is that the team didn't last year. Yeah, we shall see. So all right, so let's go on to someone who is a workhorse back, who can catch the ball. Let's go to Mr. Josh Jacobs, who I have at I-80 Sports. Says, hey, guys, what's up, buddy? Good friend of the show. And Wilson says he'd take Henry over Barkley. Wilson, you might be on your own there. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's all good, though. We still love you. All right. I have Mr. Josh Jacobs at running back 11, and the world has him at running back 10. I'm actually slightly, only by one lower on him, and I'm not really worried about that one. Henry did rack up 122 carries while trailing in 2019. That's a good stat to know, Josh. Thank you for giving me that. I did not have that stat myself. That's good. That helps. So still wouldn't mind seeing him get those passes in there, but that definitely helps if they're willing to give him the ball. And yeah, I like.
But they also, I think that's a good stat. But that Darrington Evans is definitely better than Deion Lewis. So that also might play a role where their backup is better, so they can actually use them a little bit more. So yeah, but that's a great stat. I like that stat.
Yeah. Fair, like that. See, y'all are part of the show. We have you guys on the show, even though you're not on the camera. I love it. All right. Next up, Josh Jacobs. I already mentioned him. I'm one spot behind him. Let's give you the stats for last year as a rookie. Came in, and we knew he'd be the man. He only played 13 games. I got hurt. And sat out a little bit. Also, probably played a little bit roughed up a little, but that's okay. 242 rushing attempts, 1,150 yards, 4.8 per carry, 7 rushing TDs, 27 targets. So didn't really get the ball thrown to him a ton for 166 yards, no touchdowns. Where do I see that this year? I see him in the 276 rushing attempts, that workhorse back with 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns. Because I am expecting more out of this offense. Derek Carr better make it happen, or he could very well be gone. 30 receptions. I didn't give him many more receptions, just a couple more, and 2 touchdowns to go with him because I feel like the offense will be a little more powerful this year. So that's my stats, which I think are almost a little bit on the loftier side, and I'm still one spot behind the rest of the world in there. So how do you feel about this Raiders team and Josh Jacobs?
Yeah, I like Josh Jacobs. I think he's going to do very well. I mean, they just came out. He wants to catch 60 balls this year. That would be great if he could do that. If he can get up into that top echelon of ball catchers. If he could be a good receiver this year on top of his rushing ability, I think he could be really, really good. I just get worried about their offense sometimes because, Gruden, he thinks he has the best offense in the NFL, and he tends to – And Derek Carr just doesn't – he's okay. Like, he's just not – I mean, Marcus Mariota, we've seen what he is. I know they got better at the receiver, so that's going to help the running game. They actually got some weapons on the outside. They can't stack the box. I just worry about Carr's ability to get that spacing to allow Jacobs to run the ball. Because as a defensive coordinator, I wouldn't be very worried about Derek Carr. I'm just not very worried about him. So yeah. I think that could hurt Jacobs a little bit, but I like Jacobs. I think he's going to do very well there. I know they brought in some running backs that maybe could take away the receiving part of it. And I don't know what you think about Lynn Bowden and those guys, but I don't know if that's going to hurt Jacobs or not. I'm not sure what they're going to try to use him as. So it kind of just depends on what Gruden does. Yeah.
So my 30 receptions for Josh Jacobs, that's 2.5 targets a game and about 1 3/4 receptions a game. So it's not almost 2 receptions game. So it's not crazy high.
Yeah.
I did put Bowden in for 300 yards rushing and almost 300 yards receiving, and Jalen Richard in for 215 rushing and 341 receiving. So I gave work to the rest of the team.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, Jacobs is the clear cut number one. I know that Gruden likes to get fancy. He likes to use different weapons. And so and it's weird. Sometimes he goes away. Like I think last season, there's a lot of games because I live, of course, in California, so I have to watch the Raiders play. So I saw them play.
You said have to, didn't you?
Yeah. Unfortunately, sometimes when I can't watch the Cowboys. So I watch him and he just tries to get too cute sometimes where it's like, Jacobs, just give him the ball. He's going to get 4 or 5 yards of carry. And I felt like they were really one-dimensional last year. They weren't the offense just didn't – it looked from like the 1990s where Gruden's used to coaching. And so it just kind of got to that point where it was like, hey, this is really frustrating. So hopefully Jacobs gets the opportunity, because I think I'd be interested to see if he would have came out this year, where he'd be at in the running back tiers for people, because I think he's still pretty high up there. I still think you'd want him as your running back.
Yeah, I agree, and I do have him as both my dynasty running backs. So boom,
Yeah, that's good.
All right, so here's someone new to the show, Bob Ventimiglia. I said that wrong. I apologize. Love Jacobs. 4 more games this year with Richie Incognito. He's not Incognito. So PFF ranked Raiders #1 offensive line in football. That is not a bad thing to run behind. And every year the Raiders are always high on receivers. So thanks for joining in on the comments, guys. Love it.
Good.
All right. So let's go over to my next guy. This guy, I'm a little surprised I have here, because I don't know if I've ever owned him on a single team, and that's on me. That's on me. That's Aaron Jones. I have Aaron Jones at number 12. I guess is that low? No, they have him at 11, so I guess I'm not that far off. I think it's still because I'm waiting for some of those other names that should be up here. That I don't have up. I think that's what it is for me. So 243 points. He's the next guy in my 4th tier. It's Aaron Jones, Mark Ingram, which I think people are unfairly low on this year, and Todd Gurley, who I think also people are unfairly low on this year. That's an interesting tier to me right there, that group of guys. Would you say?
Yeah, no, I like that. It's an interesting group because I feel like Eckler should be higher. That's kind of where I was looking at, because
I know
in PPR. So I'm like, man, I don't know if I'd take those guys over him. But like Aaron Jones, yeah, like where you have Aaron Jones at running back 12, that sounds about right. I think that he's gonna. People think he's gonna super regress. I think he's gonna definitely regress a little bit on the touchdowns, because he had a lot, 16 last year. But I still think he's the running back to own there. People keep saying AJ Dillon. I watched AJ Dillon a lot in college, and it's just, for me, he doesn't have the burst that you really want to see. I know that they're going to run a little differently, especially when their offense, they're trying to change it up a little bit. But I think Aaron Jones definitely has especially this year. This year, I think he's still going to continue to be a top running back, a running back 2, somewhere in that category.
Okay, that's fair. Bob, I can't say your last name. That's the other Bob. That's who that was. All right, cool. He was a former guest on a show or two for me. Love it. And real quick, for redraft, please, 15th round, take Greg Ward, Tyrell Williams, or Antonio. Who's Antonio Brown? Who are you taking right there? Take a shot on Greg Ward?
Yeah.
Chance to do better than Antonio Brown.
I wouldn't take a shot on Antonio Brown's crazy. I would probably, Greg Ward, I guess. Tyrell Williams, maybe. I don't know. All
right, there you go. You had it. Go draft him. All right.
Don't take either of them. Take someone else.
There you go. I'm with you on AJ Dillon. This is Josh FF. He's somewhat soft for a back his size too. AJ was elite inside the 5 zone. So here's the stats that I threw in here for him. We have Aaron Jones last year, 1,000 yards, way less than that previously, but that's because he didn't really get to work. 474 yards, big jump for him in receiving yards last year, 3 receiving touchdowns, 16 rushing touchdowns. The man was a beast last year in the touchdowns. That is 19 for those not counting and not good with the hashtag math. So I put him down for 245 attempts, 1,225 yards. So I gave him an extra 200 yards to get to where I got him. But I took those touchdowns down to 12 because I thought that was outrageous. And I took his receiving yards down to 223 because I think he had a big couple games that really pushed that number high and gave him 2 touchdowns. So that still kept him in that realm. I don't know why I could never get on board with him. I mean, really, last year was his only year that he really, really, really did it. 700 yards the year before with 8 touchdowns, 200 receiving yards, and another touchdown there. It's not bad.
No. I think if you have him, this is the last year to have him. And then I think you got to try. If you're playing Dynasty, get rid of him by this year. If you're in redraft, this would probably be his last big year before I think he's going to have to find a new team. I don't think they're going to bring him back. So I think if you want to get him now, you get him now. Maybe, like you said, he gets that 1,200 yards. I think they're going to run the ball a lot. So he definitely has that ability. But yeah, he's someone that's on. This is probably his final year in Green Bay for sure.
All right. So speaking of final years, let's go to my next guy, who I think people are sleeping on hard this year, but maybe not. That's Mark Ingram II. He is running back 13 for me, and for the rest of the world, Mark Ingram is running back 22. Okay, there's a disparity, huh?
Yeah, that's a big one.
So, Wilson says big trust. Exactly. That's a big disparity. So let's figure out why in the hell is it such a big void? Why do I have him so high? Well, let's take a look. All right. Last 3 years, 1,200 or 1,100 yards, 600 yards, and that's in a 3/4 of a season, and 1,000 yards last year in 15 games. So that's pretty well on pace each year for around 1,100 yards. And then in the receiving game, he actually can receive the ball. So 58 receptions, 26 receptions. Not terrible. Definitely better 3 years ago than the last two. 247 yards last year, 5 receiving touchdowns, which was outlandishly high, I believe, for him. Or really anybody who catches the ball that many times, that little times. So I gave him 1,132 yards in his wheelhouse. Totally doable. 10 touchdowns. Who are they stopping? They stopping him? They stopping Lamar Jackson? Who are they covering there? Gotta watch and see. It gives him just more opportunities to try and bust through a hole. I dropped him. I gave him 309 yards receiving. It's totally doable for him, and dropped him down to three receiving touchdowns. Any number there stand out as crazy high to you?
I just
or do you think it's market share?
Yeah, I think with like when I was doing my research for my quarterbacks, I was looking at Lamar Jackson, but they were talking about his offense. And I think he's going to get some goal line carries like you talked about in touchdowns. I think he's definitely there. I just think that they're going to improve their passing game. And when I was going through the research, they were talking about how he actually ranks 8th in Lamar Jackson ranks 8th in deep passing. They just don't throw the ball very much. So their Greg Roman and Harbaugh have been working on all summer trying to figure out different schemes to get him to throw the ball downfield. So I think they're actually going to be more of a passing team than they have been last year. I think last year was, okay, let's put this together for him. Let's build it around him. And then now it's, okay, let's expand. So I think that I think Boykin is going to be okay this year. I like Marquise Brown, obviously, and he gained freaking 100 pounds of muscle over the summer. Everybody's talking about it. James Proch, Duvernay, all those guys, they're talking about doing really quick screens and trying to get them involved in the offense a lot more. So I could just see his market share going down just because I think they're going to get other people involved. And I do think Dobbins is a hell of a talent, and it's going to be hard to keep. Like, everybody talks about, oh, look at Mack and Taylor. It's like, dude, Dobbins is better than, I think, Ingram at this point, where compared to Mack and Taylor, I really think Dobbins can step in and really be that guy in that offense. So I just worry about, is he going to get enough carries, and is he going to get enough targets to be able to satisfy your team, depending on where you draft him at.
Okay. I can see that. I can definitely see Dobbins cutting in, and there's room for that team to start passing more and rush less. It can happen. It definitely can happen. I feel like it pulled in the reins a little bit on him. Did I give enough to Dobbins? Maybe not. Okay. So let's probably hit our last player, maybe two here. And this is another one that I think the world says, James, what are you doing? What are you doing? RB14 for Todd Gurley? Are we kidding me? Because we're thinking he's RB15. It's not that much different. Okay, I thought they were lower on him than that. So Gurley, this is a guy who was the king of the world 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And then he got those knees. He got those Jay Ajayi, Sony Michel. Except those guys ain't playing anymore, and he still is. So I'm going to read these beautiful stats for you for Todd Gurley. We're going to go 1,300 yards, 1,250, and 850 last year. That was his terrible season in 15 games. Actually, 15, 14, and 15. He hasn't played a full season in a while. 857 yards last year. His yards per carry dropped by a little bit over a full percent last year, so that's a pretty big dip. 13, 17, and only 12 receiving touchdowns last year. So definitely big decline from the previous year in rushing TDs. Passing yards, holy hell. 788, 580, only 207 receiving yards last year. You can tell me this man can't catch the ball all of a sudden anymore? Give me a break. Yards per reception, 12, 9, and 6. That's a pretty big decline. Is saying the end is near? 6 receiving touchdowns, 4 than 2. I mean, if he keeps going at this pace, he is going to be at 0. Here's what I gave him. I gave him 232 with 974. I don't even have him breaking 1,000 yards, guys. Come on. It's not even 1,000 yards. Give him a little slack. I have him for 12 touchdowns. All right, that one feels lofty. How did I get to 12? I have him for 43 receptions at only 290 yards, which is a little more than he did last year, but way off his pace from previous years, and 3 touchdowns. And that keeps him 1 spot behind the rest of the world, I think. I think that team is going to use him and abuse him for this year. They have him, and they're just going to beast with him. And that's why I have him at 14 instead of 15. Just saying, world, get out of the way. He's going to dominate that offense. What do you got?
Yeah, no, I mean, he's only missed 7 games in the 5 seasons he's played. So it's not like he's missing half seasons and doing those type of things. I think people think his knees are just like completely on the ground and they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to make excuses for him, but I think the Rams offensive line was terrible last year, and I don't think that helped. Like I said, I thought Goff regressed, and I don't want Goff at all. So I think that it did hurt him there. I think the scheme was wrong. I just didn't like the makeup of that team either. I know they went to the Super Bowl the year before, but something didn't click for him. So I don't think they got him involved in the ways that he was used to, and I think he got a little frustrated. But like you said, being in Atlanta, having Julio, and then you got Ridley, you got Gage there, who I think is going to be a good third option on that team, a slot receiver. You're going to have Matt Ryan. They can't stack the box because they're going to throw the ball. I like you said, I think this could be one of the better years for Gurley. Probably his 3rd best season as a pro, if he can get in that like 1,100 yards, maybe, if he can actually get into that category. But yeah, he's a great option for you in a redraft league in the 3rd, 4th round. If you're looking for that, it's maybe 2nd running back, just kind of depends. But I like Gurley. I think people just leave him out the pasture because he has he's going to have arthritis. That's in like 5 years. He's going to be just fine in the next couple of years in football. Like, he's not done. He's not tearing his ACLs and all this stuff right now. Like, he's still a good football player.
Yeah, I agree. Here's a quick stat for you. So rushing attempts for Atlanta, for the 16 and 17, about a little bit over 400 yards attempts, 424 and 30. Last 2 years, 350, 360. So lots of room for rebound there. And then listen to these passing attempts, 530 the first 2 years, and then the last 2 years, 617 and 680. I don't see him getting that many passing attempts, but they aren't afraid to throw to the running back typically. And I think that will play well to his strengths if they so choose to let him play well to those strengths. They have to actually throw it to him because last year the team didn't. But I think they should.
I think he's a big upgrade from Devonta Freeman. Everybody's loving Devonta Freeman. Devonta Freeman hasn't done crap for 2 years. Like, I don't know why everybody's like, oh, where's Devonta Freeman going to sign? I don't know, the XFL with The Rock. Like, I don't know where he's going to sign. Like, he's not that guy that you're thinking like, oh, he could legitimately be. I think Gurley's a big upgrade for that offense. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to be good.
Yep. All right, I dig it. So we're going to cut the show, the players right there. Why don't you remind the listeners who aren't looking at the screen, who can see it, where they can find your work, if it comes out certain days or scenarios you got going on there. If you'd just like to talk on the Twitters when you're dropping anything other than a deuce, let's hear what you got.
Yeah, so you can find me at DuBois_22. You can get me on hammercast.com. That's where a lot of my work goes. Because of Devi and because the college football season's all kind of in flux right now, which sucks. My work's kind of like I've kind of taken a break from Devi stuff right now just to wait to see what's happening with the college football because I don't want to write like I wrote 10,000 words on the Mountain West last week and now they're not playing. So now I'm just kind of like, well, that sucks. So I'm going to be writing a couple of dynasty pieces. We're going to do some gambling lines. I think we're going to come out with that pretty soon. So that'll be out this weekend. I usually have 2 or 3 articles out a week. And so right now, so I've been kind of grinding on those. So you can find me at Hammercast or on DuBois_22 on Twitter.
Awesome. You can find me at Bob's Three-Toed Warriors on Twitter, at Bob's Three-Toed, I should say, at Bob's Three-Toed Warriors on YouTube. Shows are Monday and Thursdays right now, and the live streams are Wednesdays. And Wilson chimed in, said, thanks for the great show. Thanks for being great listeners, great conversators with your great comments. Thanks for giving us something to play and you guys enjoy. So I hope you guys enjoyed as much as we enjoyed doing it for you. And Kevin, oh man, thank you for coming on the show as always. Third time, tied for number one guest.
Tied for number one. Tied.
Tied. That's right. It's not the first loser. It's not the first winner. I don't know what it is. It's been Bob's Three-Toed Warriors with Kevin, reminding you that soon enough you'll be able to hit the waiver wire, set your lineups, and dominate your opponents. But until then, see ya.